In today's story, a couple checks into a resort hoping to heal, only to find another duplicate version of themselves already inside, waiting. Are they from parallel worlds? Or something darker? With only one couple allowed to escape, everything is at stake. Let's dive deeper into this. At the start, we meet a married couple, Ethan and Sophie. They had a love marriage. They first met at a party, fell for each other instantly, went on a long drive, and even ended up swimming in a stranger's pool. That's where they both proposed to each other. Pretty unusual, right? But after marriage, things started going downhill. They began fighting over every little thing. So now they're seeing a therapist. To test how well they connect, the therapist gives them a simple task: play the same musical notes together. But even that doesn't go well. They end up arguing right in front of him. So the therapist gives them a brochure and says, "This resort is designed just for couples like you. Spend a couple of weeks there, and it might fix everything." Sounds easy enough, right? So they decide to give it a try. When they reach the resort, they go off in different directions to explore the place. Ethan stumbles upon a beautiful little guest house. Inside, there's a cozy room, a library, and even a tablet showing photos and reviews from couples who stayed there before. After seeing everything inside the guest house, Ethan goes back to his room. A little later, he and Sophie sit together and have a drink. Sophie playfully says, "Why do you always wear these glasses? You actually look really handsome without them." But instead of responding to that, Ethan tells her about the beautiful guest house he found on the resort property. He says it looks amazing and that many couples have stayed there and left their reviews. Now here's something you should know. Sophie brought some drugs along for this trip. She offers them to Ethan, and both of them take it together. Things feel light, relaxed, and time just seems to float by. Later, Sophie becomes curious about the guest house Ethan mentioned, so she decides to go see it for herself. And yes, the place really is beautiful. Inside, she finds a Russian nesting doll, the kind where one doll opens to reveal another inside it, and another inside that, and so on. As she's examining the doll, she suddenly hears a sound behind her. She turns around, and there's Ethan standing there. But something's different about him. He's looking at her with soft, romantic eyes, and for once, he's taken off his glasses, just like Sophie had wished earlier. One thing leads to another, and the two of them share a romantic moment. After many days of tension, they finally get close again and become intimate in the guest house. Sophie is glowing with happiness afterward. Ethan is in a playful mood, tossing grapes around and laughing. Ethan suggests, "Why don't we just spend the night here in this guest house?" Sophie agrees and says, "Sure, I'll just go grab some pillows from our room." She leaves. But here's where things get weird. Sophie walks back into their main room and sees Ethan already lying on the sofa. She's confused and asks, "How did you get here before me? You were just in the guest house a minute ago." Ethan looks just as confused. He says, "Wait, what are you talking about? Did you dream I went to the guest house? And why are you sweating so much?" He even takes off his glasses and stares at her. Sophie is stunned. "Please don't joke like this," she says, her voice shaken. "We were just together. We got intimate in the guest house. Don't you remember?" But Ethan swears he has no idea what she's talking about. He tells her, "We got high, had dinner, and then you went out. I fell asleep here. When did this intimate moment happen?" "I don't remember anything like that." Now Sophie is furious. "How could you say that after everything?" she says. "We just had this special moment, and now you're making fun of me?" Hurt and frustrated, she storms out of the room. Ethan is left completely confused. He can't make sense of what just happened. So he goes back to the guest house. There he finds the 2 wine glasses and grapes still scattered on the floor. Now he's starting to wonder, what exactly is going on? Feeling disoriented, he lies down again on the sofa in the guest house. After some time, Sophie returns too. She seems to have calmed down a bit. Without saying anything, she quietly lies down beside Ethan, and the two fall asleep, holding each other. The next morning, Ethan wakes up and sees Sophie cooking breakfast in the guest house kitchen. Surprised, he gets up and apologizes for last night, but Sophie just smiles and says, "Why are you apologizing? Nothing happened. I think you're still feeling the effects of the drugs. Now freshen up. I've made bacon for you." Ethan is stunned. Bacon? That's his favorite, but Sophie never cooks it. She doesn't even like it, so he gets suspicious. Without saying much, he rushes back to their main room in the resort. And guess what? Sophie walks out of the bathroom just then, drying her hair. Now Ethan is really confused. He grabs her hand and quickly takes her to the guest house. Pointing inside, he says, "Wait, 2 minutes ago, you were cooking bacon here. I could even smell it. Then how are you suddenly coming out of the bathroom in our room?" Sophie looks at him like he's gone mad. "What are you talking about? You were asleep in our room all night. I didn't even go near the guest house." Frustrated, she walks off. But Ethan stops her and says, "Just listen to me for a second. Last night you said we got intimate in the guest house, but I never experienced that. Then we fought, you went back to the room, and I came here and fell asleep. And this morning I woke up to see you cooking bacon. But now you say it never happened. That means we're having different experiences in the same place." To prove it, Ethan runs back inside the guest house. Suddenly, he hears Sophie calling for a towel from the bathroom inside the guest house. Ethan feels dizzy and rushes back out. He hands her the towel and says, "If you're in the bathroom in here, then go inside and see for yourself." Sophie walks in, curious. From outside, Ethan calls out to her lovingly, "Sophie, come sit with me." But now even Sophie is shocked. What's going on in there? Ethan waits outside. Minutes pass, and she still doesn't come out. He starts getting worried and tries to enter the guest house again, but this time the door won't open. He even picks up a stone and tries to break in, but nothing works. Suddenly the door opens, and Sophie steps out, shocked. "Ethan," she says, "there's someone inside who looks exactly like you." Now they both realize something strange is going on. Without wasting time, they grab their bags and leave the resort. On the way, they stop at a restaurant. Sitting across from each other, they discuss what just happened. They talk about the duplicates, the strange guest house, and whether it was some sort of parallel universe or time portal. Sophie, surprisingly, says she liked the experience. Ethan is stunned. She continues, "Maybe the therapist sent us here to help fix our relationship. Maybe this is part of some intense therapy session to understand each other better. And honestly, I don't want to run away from this. I want to explore it more." She even suggests, "Let's treat this like therapy. Those duplicates didn't seem dangerous. Maybe they'll help us learn something. Maybe it'll help us love each other better." Ethan is hesitant, but finally agrees. In the next scene, they return to the same resort. This time, Ethan enters the guest house alone. Inside the duplicate, Sophie smiles warmly and says, "Oh, you're back." She offers him tea, talks sweetly, and acts exactly how Ethan wishes Sophie would. But Ethan knows this is not his real wife. He tries to play smart. "How long have you been here?" he asks. She replies with a laugh. "What do you mean?" "We came here together last night. Don't you remember?" Trying to trick her, Ethan says, "Let's go out for a walk." He wants to take her outside so that both Sophie's, real and duplicate, can be seen together. But the duplicate is clever too. She says, "I have a headache. Why don't you go without me?" Ethan steps outside and meets the real Sophie. He tells her, "That version of you inside, she's exactly like you, but calmer, more loving, and she talks sweetly. You're usually angry and always yelling, but she's peaceful." Sophie listens carefully and then says, "We need to set some rules." She lays them out. Rule 1, we will never get physically close or intimate with the duplicates. Rule 2, if things ever get too confusing, we'll leave immediately. Rule 3, we won't spend more than 15 minutes at a time with the duplicates. Ethan agrees. Sophie promises she'll follow all 3 rules. Then Sophie walks into the guest house while Ethan stays outside and starts the timer. Sophie goes into the guest house and is immediately impressed. Her face lights up with joy. The duplicate Ethan has made a beautiful portrait for her and is showering her with attention and love. He's gentle, caring, and listens to her in a way that the real Ethan hasn't in a long time. Sophie quickly starts to feel comfortable, maybe too comfortable. Meanwhile, the real Ethan is standing outside watching the timer. 15 minutes pass, but Sophie doesn't come out. He starts to worry. At around the 20-minute mark, he peeks through the window and sees the duplicate Ethan giving Sophie a massage. Ethan's heart sinks. Sophie notices him watching and comes outside, clearly annoyed. She snaps at him. "What are you doing? Spying on me now? Don't you trust me?" Ethan reminds her of the rule. They weren't supposed to stay in the guest house for more than 15 minutes, but Sophie brushes it off. "So what if I stayed a little longer? You're overreacting." Ethan tries to calm things down and asks her, "So how was it really being inside?" Sophie admits, "Honestly, it was amazing. That version of you is just better. He treats me the way you used to in the early days. He listens, he cares, and I feel truly seen." Later in their room, both Ethan and Sophie talk openly about the duplicates. Sophie even says, "I liked my duplicate partner more than the real you." Ethan, clearly hurt, asks if there's any physical difference between him and the duplicate. Sophie replies, "Not much, just that he doesn't wear glasses like you, and his hair was a little messy. You'd look good like that too." Ethan can't help but feel jealous. That night, while Sophie sleeps, Ethan quietly sneaks out. He goes to the guest house, turns on the voice recorder on his phone, and hides it. He wants to hear what Sophie says when she's alone with the duplicate Ethan. The next morning, Sophie happily walks to the guest house and spends time laughing and chatting with the duplicate Ethan. She even plays with the Russian dolls again, feeling deeply connected to him, almost like she's fallen in love for the first time. After spending the entire day with him, She walks out glowing with happiness. Seeing her so cheerful, the real Ethan starts feeling more anxious. He thinks, let me check the voice recording. That'll clear everything up. But when he sneaks into the guest house to retrieve his phone, it's gone. Just then, the duplicate Sophie appears behind him and says, "Hey Ethan, you left your phone here yesterday." He takes it, rushes outside, and checks the recording. But it's useless. Nothing was recorded properly because of some disturbance. All his effort was wasted. Meanwhile, Sophie is growing closer and closer to the duplicate Ethan. She starts spending more time with him every day. Ethan feels more and more left out. One night, Ethan notices something strange. Some of his clothes are missing. He mentions it out loud, but Sophie doesn't respond. She's smiling at her phone, clearly texting someone. Ethan asks, "Who are you texting?" She casually replies, "Why? Who do you think?" Ethan's eyes widen. "Are you texting the duplicate Ethan? Wait, they even have phones?" Sophie doesn't say much, but Ethan is clearly upset. He keeps mumbling to himself and finally goes to sleep. The next morning, before the sun rises, Sophie quietly walks back to the guest house again. It's during this visit that we learn a deeper truth. Ethan had once betrayed Sophie's trust, which is why she finds it hard to open up to him. But with the duplicate Ethan, she feels safe enough to share her thoughts and emotions freely. She opens up to him and says, "Why did you do this to me, Ethan?" Now here's the twist. If it had been the real Ethan, he might have denied or defended himself. But the duplicate Ethan doesn't lie. He looks her in the eyes and apologizes sincerely. He says, "I'm sorry, Sophie. It's all my fault. You were the one who always held our relationship together. You were the one who kept trying when I gave up. You were the one who pushed us to see the therapist. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have lasted this long." Sophie gets emotional. These were the words she had always longed to hear from the real Ethan, but never did. And now, hearing them from someone who looks just like him, who takes responsibility, speaks from the heart, and shows true vulnerability, Sophie can't hold herself back anymore. She breaks all the rules they had made and kisses the duplicate Ethan. Now we see Sophie back in her room. What exactly happened between her and the duplicate Ethan in the guest house remains unknown to the real Ethan, but he's anxious. He warns her again, "No matter what, don't get close to that duplicate. He's not me." Ethan fears that Sophie is falling for the duplicate version, so he tells her he's going out for a walk in the garden. While he's out, he suddenly gets several voice messages from friends and relatives. It turns out Ethan had earlier asked people questions about himself, probably to test whether the duplicates had been messing with his identity. The replies make one thing clear: someone's been impersonating him. Ethan immediately suspects the duplicates. Angry, he tells Sophie, but instead of being shocked, Sophie defends the duplicate Ethan. "I know him," she says. "He'd never do something like that. If you want, I'll ask him myself." This hits Ethan hard. He tells her there's no need and makes up a reason to leave. "I need to buy some things from the shop. Want to come?" Sophie replies, "No, you go ahead. I'll stay here." But Ethan doesn't actually leave the resort. Instead, he drives a little way off, parks the car, and then quickly runs back toward the guest house. He's made a plan. Ethan knows Sophie will visit the guest house as soon as he's gone, so he decides to trick her. He sneaks into the guest house, messes up his hair, takes off his glasses, and acts like the cool, charming duplicate Ethan. Just then, Sophie arrives, thinking he is the duplicate. She begins opening up emotionally, pouring her heart out about how much she's drawn to the duplicate's kind, gentle nature, his warmth, his attentiveness, the way he makes her feel seen and valued. It's everything she's always wanted. Caught in that emotional moment, Sophie becomes intimate with Ethan, fully believing he's the duplicate. Yes, friends, Sophie unknowingly becomes close with the real Ethan, thinking he's someone else. In the next scene, Ethan walks out of the guest house, completely shaken. You'd think he'd be happy after being intimate with Sophie, right? But he's not, because Sophie didn't choose him. She chose someone she thought was different, someone who acted more loving, more understanding. It wasn't real. He returns to their room emotionally wrecked. Sophie casually asks, "So did you buy anything from the shop?" As if nothing had happened. Ethan forces a smile and replies, "No, the shop was closed." The next day, we see Ethan sitting with duplicate Sophie. He's clearly disturbed, still thinking about what happened the night before, how Sophie unknowingly became intimate with him, thinking he was someone else. Meanwhile, the duplicate Sophie speaks gently, trying to cheer him up. "I'll make you a nice fish curry," she says. "You'll feel better." But Ethan, already filled with anger and confusion, snaps back. "I don't want anything made by your hands. Who even are you? A robot? An alien? You might look like my wife, but you're not her." He pours out his frustration. "My real wife, Sophie, won't even come close to me now. She's getting attached to that fake version of me. She's starting to love him. Ever since we came to this resort, she's been drifting away. Hearing this, the duplicate Sophie calmly says, "You speak as if all your problems started only after coming here." Ethan freezes. He looks at her shocked. "How do you know we had problems before this?" She looks at him softly and replies, "Because I am your wife." That hits Ethan hard. Cut to Sophie. She walks out of the guest house after spending a long time with the duplicate Ethan. But then she stops, thinks for a moment, and decides, "Why should I go back to the room? I'd rather stay here longer." She turns back and goes into the guest house again, where she begins getting romantic with the duplicate Ethan. They start to grow even closer. Meanwhile, the real Ethan sees all this from outside. He finally loses control. Like a volcano erupting, he runs to the guest house and begins banging loudly on the door in anger. Sophie opens it, fed up. "What is wrong with you? You're acting like a madman." Ethan pushes inside and starts searching every room, shouting, "Where is he? Where is that fake version of me?" Sophie yells back, "If he leaves me because of your behavior, what will I do then?" Ethan shouts, "Listen to me clearly. I am your real husband. He's just a copy." But Sophie responds without hesitation, "Even if he is a duplicate, I'm happy with him. He made me smile again, made me feel something after so long." Their argument explodes with raw emotion as they return to their room. But just when they think things can't get worse, they open the door and freeze. The duplicate couple is already sitting inside. In the next scene, all four are now sitting face to face, the real Ethan and Sophie, and their duplicates. Ethan looks at the duplicate Ethan with pure anger in his eyes, clearly full of jealousy and resentment. But when Sophie looks at the duplicate Sophie, she's not angry, just surprised and maybe a little unsettled. To break the tension, the duplicate Ethan says, "If we're just going to sit here staring at each other, we'll never get anywhere. I'm starving. Let's eat first, then we can talk." In the next scene, all four of them are sitting down for a meal. The mood is awkward, but calm. Sophie casually chats with the duplicate Sophie. Meanwhile, Ethan and the duplicate Ethan start talking too, but it's clear from their tone and expressions that they're not going to get along. There's tension bubbling just under the surface. Later, all four sit down to play cards. During the game, Sophie secretly helps the duplicate Ethan win by throwing a few rounds. Real Ethan notices this and gets frustrated. "That's cheating," he snaps. But Sophie just laughs and says, "Relax, it's just a game. Why are you getting so serious?" Ethan, now burning with frustration, says, "Okay then, let's have a real one-on-one match. Me versus him." They play and Ethan loses. Still unable to accept it, he accuses the duplicate Ethan of cheating and shouts, "He's a liar. Don't trust him." Then the duplicate Ethan calmly replies, "Really?" says the guy who pretended to be me just to get intimate with Sophie in the guest house. Ethan freezes. Sophie is shocked. Her face falls. She stares at Ethan and says with disgust, "I didn't know you were capable of something so low." Heartbroken and furious, Sophie storms out. Now Ethan snaps. His anger boils over. He picks up the phone and calls the therapist, shouting, "This is your therapy? You said this would help us fix our marriage, but it's torn us apart. When I get out of here, I swear I'll come after you." After this breakdown, Ethan heads to the resort's workroom, where guest records are kept. He opens a computer and begins checking folders labeled with names of previous couples. There are photos, voice notes, and logs of each session. Then he finds a folder titled Ethan and Sophie. He opens it, and inside is a photo of him and Sophie that he doesn't remember ever taking. He plays one of the voice recordings and hears his own voice, along with Sophie's, in what sounds like a recorded therapy session. Now Ethan is completely creeped out. Something is very wrong. He tries to leave the room, but the door is locked. He starts banging, calling for help. No one responds. Ethan is trapped, alone, inside the room all night. The next morning, duplicate Sophie comes into the locked room where Ethan is trapped and says, "I'm not your wife." Ethan, surprised but relieved, says, "Thank God, at least you're being honest. But please, tell me the truth. What's going on here?" She explains, "Only one couple can leave this resort. That's the rule. We were waiting for a new couple, like you and Sophie, to arrive so we could trap you here and escape in your place." Ethan is shocked. "What are you saying? Are you people ghosts? Robots? Holograms? Who are you?" Duplicate Sophie replies, "We're humans, just like you." Ethan asks, "Then how do you look exactly like us? Are we twins or clones or what?" Then comes the real twist. The duplicates don't even know they're duplicates. In fact, they believed they were the real Ethan and Sophie. Just like the real couple, their relationship had also gone cold. They saw the same therapist who sent them to this resort to heal their marriage. But when they arrived, they found they were trapped. The only way to escape? Trick another couple into coming and replace them. So when the real Ethan and Sophie arrived, that was the plan, but things got complicated. The duplicate Ethan fell in love with the real Sophie. He decided to escape with her, leaving his own partner behind. Meanwhile, duplicate Sophie fell for the real Ethan because she saw in him everything she was missing from her own partner. So now the pairs are emotionally switched. Sophie loves the duplicate Ethan. Duplicate Sophie loves the real Ethan. It's a tangled mess, but duplicate Sophie doesn't agree with her partner's plan. She tells Ethan, "I want my husband and me to leave here together, but now I see he wants to escape with your wife. I can't let that happen. I'd rather stay trapped here forever with him than let him run away with someone else." She begs Ethan, "Talk to your wife. Make her understand. You two must leave together." Meanwhile, duplicate Ethan is trying to lure Sophie to leave with him. He sweet-talks her. "Let's go trekking. It'll be fun." Sophie hesitates. "Ethan's already angry with me. I should talk to him first." Duplicate Ethan says, "It's just 1 hour. By then he'll cool down." Sophie seems convinced, but just then duplicate Sophie arrives and says, "Can I join the trekking too?" Duplicate Ethan brushes her off. "You don't even have the right clothes or shoes." Sophie steps in. "No problem. I've got extra shoes and clothes. I'll help her." Now Sophie and duplicate Sophie go to their room and wear matching outfits. Then, duplicate Sophie secretly takes Sophie to Ethan, arranging a meeting between the real couple. As they talk, duplicate Sophie goes to distract her own partner. Duplicate Ethan. Now Ethan finally gets a chance to speak to Sophie alone. He pleads, "Listen to me. We're both trapped in this place, and the therapist is behind it. Please try to understand." But Sophie snaps, "You're doing it again, saying the same things that I hate. You don't listen. The truth is, I love the duplicate Ethan. He's everything I imagined you could be." Ethan gently replies, "But that's the point. He's just your imagination come to life. If everything we dream of came true, it would lose meaning. There would be no depth, no feeling. He acts perfect, but that's not real love. That's a mirror. I know I've made mistakes," he continues. "I may not be your fantasy, but I'm real. He might be more charming or more handsome, but he's not me. You want a perfect partner? Then you'll never have a real relationship. We love each other not just for the good things, but also through the flaws. That's what makes us human. I'm saying this from my heart. Let's forget the past. Let's start over. I'll do my best to understand your needs. I promise. My life is incomplete without you. I finally see that now. Please give me one more chance." Meanwhile, the duplicate Sophie, who is now wearing the same clothes as the real Sophie, goes to meet duplicate Ethan, her husband. But duplicate Ethan doesn't know they've switched outfits, so he mistakes her for the real Sophie. He smiles and says, "Let's go for that trek." Playing along, duplicate Sophie starts pretending to be Sophie. She says, "I'm tired of my husband Ethan. I don't like him anymore. This resort is suffocating. I want to leave with you." Hearing these sweet, emotional words, duplicate Ethan gets emotional too. He leans in and kisses her passionately. Tears roll down duplicate Sophie's cheeks. In her heart, she's thinking, "I've been with him for years, but he never kissed me like this until now. And it only happened because he thinks I'm someone else." She whispers, "I'm Sophie. I'm your real Sophie." Realizing the truth from her tears and words, duplicate Ethan pulls back. Shocked, he says, "No, you're not her. You're not my Sophie." He panics, runs away, and starts banging on the door of the main room. Meanwhile, back in that room, real Ethan is talking seriously to Sophie. He says, "You have to choose now. This can't go on. You've got to decide, me or the illusion." At that moment, duplicate Ethan breaks into the room, looking desperate. He tells Sophie, "Don't listen to him. He's lying to you. I'm your Ethan. I love you. Come with me, and I'll always take care of you." Sophie is torn. For the first time, she's truly confused. But duplicate Ethan loses control. He grabs real Ethan, and the two start fighting. It's intense, emotional. Neither wants to give up. Sophie finally shouts, "Stop it! Enough!" Realizing Sophie won't come with him, duplicate Ethan backs off and says, "Fine. If you won't come with me, I'm leaving alone." He storms out of the room, heading toward the edge of the resort. Sophie, worried, runs after him, calling, "Please stop! Don't go!" But just then, duplicate Ethan hits an invisible barrier at the resort boundary and falls hard to the ground, unconscious. Sophie, Ethan, and duplicate Sophie rush to his side. Now, just as duplicate Sophie once explained, only one couple is allowed to leave. The others must stay behind. Seeing duplicate Ethan unconscious, everyone realizes what's happened. Sophie is heartbroken. She kneels beside him, emotional. But duplicate Sophie smiles, knowing the exit has now opened for the real couple. Real Ethan smiles too and turns to Sophie. He says softly, "We don't have to stay here anymore." Then holding Sophie's hand, Ethan leads her to their car. They pack their things, get in, and drive away. finally escaping the resort together. After everything, Ethan calls the therapist and says, "I'm coming to your clinic today. I need answers." But when he arrives, the clinic is completely empty. There's no therapist, no staff, just the piano they once played during therapy. That's when Ethan and Sophie realize this therapist was never ordinary. He was something else entirely. But still, at least they escaped the resort. Time passes, and Ethan becomes the kind of partner Sophie always wanted. They're finally happy together. But then, one quiet morning, Sophie smiles and says, "You freshen up. I'll make bacon for you in 5 minutes." Ethan freezes. Sophie never liked bacon, never cooked it, never ate it. He stares at the bacon in shock, and the movie ends.